The story began not with a whisper, but with a collision of fate, two souls, bound by scripts yet transcending the page. Liang and Xing Zhaolin stepped into the eternal love as characters meant to tangle in destiny, but what unfolded was far greater than fiction. Their on-screen bond bled into the hearts of millions, making viewers question whether they were watching a drama or a prophecy. Eternal or illusion, was it merely performance, or was it written in the stars that these two would keep meeting in lifetime after lifetime? Every scene they shared was charged like thunder hidden behind silk curtains. The smallest glance seemed to ignite entire galaxies, the softest word carrying the weight of eternity. Liang Jie, with her quiet strength and radiant poise, became more than a heroine trapped by fate. Xing Zhaolin, sharp-eyed and relentless, was not merely her counterpart, he was her tether, her rival, her salvation. When they collided on screen, it felt like time paused, as though the universe itself leaned closer to listen. But what made their story impossible to forget was not just the way they embraced destiny in the drama, it was the way they blurred it with reality. Fans began to wonder, were Liang Jie and Xing Zhaolin just characters walking through a script, or were they souls rediscovering each other in front of the camera? Could it be that their love story was not created but remembered? Eternal or illusion, the question deepened with every episode. The scenes that remain etched in memory are those that defied reason. The rooftop confrontation under silvered moonlight, where his rage turned to longing in the span of a heartbeat. Her trembling hands clutching his arm as if letting go would mean the unraveling of worlds. The kiss that burned not like fire but like recognition, as though two flames had found each other after countless extinguished lives. Each frame carried a weight too heavy for acting, too natural to be rehearsed. Behind the cameras, whispers only grew. Reports of their laughter spilling beyond takes, of moments where their eyes lingered a fraction too long, of unscripted gestures that made editors pause. Were these accidents, or confessions hidden in plain sight? Liang Jie once brushed his sleeve in a way too tender to be stage direction. Xing Zhaolin once looked at her with an ache too raw for fiction. Was it illusion crafted for an audience, or eternity bleeding through the cracks of performance? What made it more haunting was the rhythm of their careers. Again and again, they found themselves circling back, pulled together for projects that echoed their first destiny. Viewers joked it was fate, but deeper voices wondered if it was more than coincidence. How many lifetimes must two souls collide before we admit they are bound? Eternal or illusion, their paths refused to part cleanly. And then there was the ending. Not the end of the drama, but the end that never truly arrived. The eternal love concluded on screen, yet the characters lingered, as though unfinished. Fans clamored for continuations, demanded more, pleaded for the universe to keep them entwined. And somehow, the universe listened. Rumors of reunions surfaced, hints of secret scripts, teasers too vague to dismiss. Each spark reignited the fire of speculation. Was this a marketing trick, or were we witnessing a story too powerful to remain fiction? The fans carried the flame further than any director could. They created worlds of their own, weaving new chapters where Liang Jie and Xing Zhaolin's characters met again and again across realms and centuries. In one tale, he found her by the River of Souls, offering his hand even as the current tried to erase her memory. In another, she was a queen betrayed, and he a warrior doomed, their love surviving not by triumph but by tragedy. Each fanfiction, each edit, each whispered theory only added to the legend. The illusion grew stronger because the eternal refused to fade. What perhaps cemented their myth was their silence. Neither confirmed nor denied the flames their chemistry had ignited. Instead, they allowed the mystery to breathe, to grow wild in the imaginations of those who could not let go. And isn't that how illusions work? Not by what is said, but by what is left unsaid. Isn't that how eternity is felt, not by endings, but by stories that circle without conclusion? Liang Jie and Xing Zhaolin had become more than actors, they had become symbols. Symbols of unfinished love, of destiny's cruel beauty, of the aching idea that some bonds cannot be cut even by reality. They were not just co-stars, they were echoes of something older, something that hummed beneath the surface of performance. Eternal or illusion, it didn't matter anymore. What mattered was how their story lived inside those who watched it, how it pulsed like a heartbeat that refused silence. Consider the scene by the crimson lanterns, where her tears caught the glow like shards of glass, and his hand hovered in hesitation before finally reaching for her. That moment was supposed to be closure, but it became an opening, a wound too deep to close. Or the night they stood in the rain, her eyes flashing defiance even as her body leaned into the gravity of his. That wasn't acting, it was confession in disguise. Eternal or illusion, the line blurred so much it dissolved. Time has passed, but the question remains unsolved. Perhaps it was all an illusion, crafted perfectly by two professionals who knew how to ensnare an audience. Perhaps it was eternal, a thread of fate tugging them across lifetimes of screens and stages. Or perhaps it was both, an illusion that felt eternal, an eternity wrapped in illusion. Whatever the truth, the result is the same. Liang Jie and Xing Zhaolin's bond has carved itself into the history of modern drama, a tale that refuses to rest. And maybe that is the point. Endings are finite, illusions fade, eternities stretch too far, but a story balanced between them both becomes unforgettable. It becomes a legend. And legends, unlike dramas, never end. So here we stand, years later, still debating the same question. Eternal or illusion? Perhaps it was never meant to be answered. Perhaps the truth lies not in their lips or their glances, but in the way we cannot let go. Because if love lingers this long, if it haunts us across time, then maybe illusion doesn't matter. Maybe eternity is not what is real, but what refuses to be forgotten. And so Liang Jie and Xing Zhaolin remain, forever suspended between the possible and the imagined, between the screen and the soul, between illusion and eternity. Not characters, not merely actors, but two flames bound in a dance we can never look away from. Because whether eternal or illusion, their story is still alive. The question still lingers like smoke after a fire. Was their on-screen destiny eternal or was it all an illusion? Liang Jie and Xing Zhaolin didn't just play characters, they became enigmas, and that enigma refuses to settle. Fans replay their scenes not as memories, but as puzzles, moments that demand to be read between the lines. If their story was only fiction, why does it still feel so alive? Think of the banquet scene, golden lanterns swinging in the night air. Liang Jie, in character, masked sorrow with laughter, her eyes trembling like flickering flames. Across the room, Xing Zhaolin's gaze didn't waver. He watched her not like an actor reading cues, but like a man who had lost her before and couldn't risk losing her again. It was too intense, too raw, as if eternity had slipped through illusion. Viewers didn't just see performance, they saw recognition, reunion, and a pain that no script could contain. Even the smallest gestures carried thunder. When she stumbled, his hand was there, instinctive, protective. When he whispered her name, it vibrated with echoes microphones couldn't catch. And when their eyes locked in silence, eternity seemed to breathe through the frame. Fans swear those stares weren't acting at all but fragments of something remembered from lifetimes before. The rain scene is perhaps the clearest proof. Liang Jie stood drenched, her chin lifted with defiance, while Xing Zhaolin reached out, trembling fingers brushing her cheek. It was meant to be heartbreak, but what unfolded was something larger, an eternal storm where two souls confessed without words. Was it illusion, finely crafted by skilled actors? Or eternity breaking through reality, refusing to be hidden? Fans even point to unscripted slips as evidence. The way he laughed after a cut, still staring at her. The way she brushed his sleeve gently when she thought no one was watching. These weren't lines, they were pieces of truth escaping the stage. Their bond felt alive in the margins, in the silences, in the fragments never meant to be captured. Perhaps that's why their story feels eternal, because even when the drama ended, it didn't. Their names stayed linked, rumors and whispers always circling them back together. Was it coincidence, or eternity disguised as coincidence? Consider the rooftop sequence. Xing Zhaolin's character towered over her, anger and heartbreak warring in his face. Liang Jie looked up, defiant yet trembling. The script demanded confrontation, but what emerged was revelation. His fury cracked into longing, her defiance melted into surrender, and the night air thickened with a truth too heavy to deny. In that moment, illusion dissolved. What remained was memory, recognition, eternity. The saga continues because it never found closure. The ending left the story suspended, unfinished, and that incompletion became its own eternal flame. If it were illusion, it would have faded with the credits. But it hasn't. It lingers, replayed endlessly, dissected by fans searching for proof of what they felt but couldn't name. Even now, their moments glow like embers refusing to die. The banquet scene still shimmers, the rooftop trembles, the rainstorm drowns hearts in longing. Every replay is another chance to believe, another chance to see eternity where others claim illusion. And maybe that's the truth. If a story survives this long, if two names echo this loudly across time, perhaps illusion is just another word for eternity we don't yet understand. Liang and Xing Zhaolin may remain suspended between two truths, but either way, their bond refuses to let go. Eternal or illusion, the question remains, unanswered, perhaps unanswerable. But in that very uncertainty lies the beauty. Because some stories are too powerful to end, and some connections are too deep to fade. Their saga is proof of that.